Welcome to the first edition of Fight News Now for 2016. I'm John Pollock. Today we're chatting UFC 195, featuring one of the best championship fights in company history as Robbie Lawler set out to defend his welterweight gold against Carlos Condit. We will also discuss the heavyweight division and who is at the front of the line amongst those contenders, as well as Fedor's return at Rizin, and lots more with John Ramdeen and Robin Black on today's show. One of the best title fights the UFC has ever put on, Robbie Lawler retained his welterweight title, narrowly edging past Carlos Condit with a heavily debated split decision victory. Most agreed that Lawler won the second and fifth round, while Condit took the first and fourth rounds, leaving it up to how you interpreted a very close third round. It was Condit with the higher volume of strikes and controlling the pace, while Lawler scored with a head kick and big right forearm strikes while landing a pair of hard right hands. The judges scored at 48-47 twice for Lawler, and Judge Tony Weeks having the lone 48-47 card for Condit. Both men, not surprisingly, earned Fight of the Night honors. Stipe Miocic left zero room for any debate over the outcome of his fight, stopping former heavyweight champion Andre Arlovski at the 54-second mark of their bout on the main card. Miocic cracked Arlovski with a right hand and immediately followed with another, and then caught Arlovski with a left hand on his way down to the canvas. Miocic was not shy in campaigning for the next heavyweight title fight and hoping to meet the winner of next month's title bout between Fabricio Verdum and Cain Velasquez. And headlining the Fight Pass portion, we had a lightweight bout between Dustin Poirier and Irish Joe Duffy. The key being the takedowns of Dustin Poirier, as Joseph Duffy was unable to fend them off, including a commanding second round for Dustin Poirier, who went on to win by unanimous decision off scores of 30-27 twice, and one judge having it 30-26 for the ATT product in Dustin Poirier, who moves up in the rankings at 155 pounds. And last Thursday, the Rizin Fighting Federation presented their second event with their New Year's Eve card from the Saitama Super Arena. The card featured the return of Fedor Emelianenko in his first fight since 2012, dismantling Jaideep Singh, putting the kickboxer down on the ground and then working to the mount position and finishing Singh with strikes. I am here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black. We're coming off of the very first pay-per-view of the year for the UFC, and man, Robbie Lawler, you can make the argument in 2014, Fight of the Year with Johnny Hendricks. Rory McDonald in 2015, and he has set the bar pretty damn high for 2016. Just an incredible fight between these two. I think one of the finest title fights we've ever seen in the UFC, and everyone is debating the decision. I am certainly in the minority. I did give that third round to Robbie Lawler, but that seems to be, to me, a great argument for a rematch between these two. I don't think we could have asked for a better main event than these two. I'll go so far as to say I think this fight topped the Rory fight from last year.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far, but I love this fight. We really get to see two athletes in their prime with awesome strategies. Both guys seemed like they were trying to injure the other guy because they understood who was standing across the cage. Just a masterful performance by both guys. And in the end, it comes down to how you can, convince the judges. Because, there's times when 25 minutes occurs and somebody is not taken out, like the Rory McDonald fight. You go 25 minutes, you have to ensure that the judges are on your side. And I think the feeling that we got from most people was that Carlos Condit did enough over the 5 rounds to win 3 of those 5 rounds to become the new champion. But
it's one round that
yeah,
it comes down to.
Exactly.
That's what it comes down to. It's just that. And listen, volume-wise, Condit absolutely did more than Lawler, and it's just coming down to. I looked at Lawler and the head kick he had 90 seconds in and just what damage he did. But yeah, I know I'm in the minority on that one. A lot of people felt Condit did enough, and I think. A rematch, is that the direction you guys want to see, or are there enough guys in line?
Even Lawler said it. I mean, Tyron Woodley's been promised. I mean, this is something that I would like to see fresh challenges. Carlos Condit, he said he's going to probably take some time to think about things. I expect
he can as well. Both guys. I mean, to bounce back, we look at Robbie Lawler, Robin, and I mean, this guy's just been through war after war after war.
He wants it.
It will catch up to him at some point, but I hope he gets a break after this.
Yeah, I'd like to see him. What's next for him? Vacation?
Sure.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I know he took one after the Rory fight. Sure hope he takes one now. And he wants these fights.
Yeah,
That's what's so intense about it. That's what's so, you can feel that he wants these fights. You can feel that this is what he's searching for. Rory was searching for that too. Carlos was searching for that too. I tend to stay away from usually, the judge saw this or the score went that way, because it takes a lot of attention and time to examine that, when in the end I want to examine why the fight looked so beautiful. In round 5 in particular, they both felt they needed it, and Robbie had lost round 5 against Hendricks the first time and then was determined to own it the next time. That experience made him own it against Rory, where he believed, and he was right, that he needed a finish, and in this one he believed he needed a finish too, and he went after it. It was beautiful. But by digging into judging this time, I think I've uncovered one of the fundamental human flaws of it, and that is all of us are sure, if you ask somebody, which did more damage? Well, that right hook did more damage than those 3 jabs. That's not true. That big overhand right did more damage than that leg kick. That is not true. We believe it's true. It's obvious. It's obvious how the space shuttle works. It's obvious how trading commodities work. It isn't obvious. Our eyes lie to us. I fought a few times. This guy has a purple belt. That guy spars at a high level. That bit of information actually makes us less capable of determining what's really happening in there. Our eyes are lying. It's obvious. It isn't obvious. It's not the truth. So we can't assign what did more damage. And in that lies the problem in judging.
We heard, you can go online and hear a lot of people say, oh, you can't win fights on leg kicks because they're just not as damaging. Well, all you have to do is watch the armbar with Stipe Miocic, and he says taking leg kicks is the worst thing.
Watch the Tumenov fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch the Tumenov fight, And that is in there lies our problem. And determining a problem and solving it are 2 different skill sets. I can't solve it. But ultimately, in the end, once we accept that truth, and the fighters, and most of them do, you saw how good Condit reacted. You saw how willing Robbie was to give him a rematch. In the end, then we can go back to looking at 25 minutes of brilliance.
Yeah. I think both guys knew, as they were weighting those scorecards, this one could go either way. And to Robin's point, this isn't a sport where you hit a guy and a red light goes off and a point goes up on a scoreboard. I mean, it's very much subjective, but I'm not putting the judges on a firing squad for that fight, because it came down to a very close 3rd round. But as well, you mentioned Stipe Miocic, fantastic performance against Andrei Arlovski, and just demanding that heavyweight title shot. And Dana White tells him he is the #1 contender. It's almost a running joke at this point. We shall see, but couldn't make a better argument for that title fight than he did in 54 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, based on the performance, yes, but you look at his career, and Robin and I were talking about it before, you're trying to sell pay-per-views here, and I don't know if Stipe Miocic is the type of guy that will sell pay-per-views if you put him in the main event, because people still don't know his name. I think there's other stories in the heavyweight division. Alistair Overeem, for example, if Fabrizio Verdun manages to defeat Cain Velasquez again, there'll be the 3rd fight with Alistair Overeem. That's the name, that's what people want to tune in for.
Yeah, on 5 rounds we did talk about it, and in the end, the answer for a guy like Stipe Miocic, and it's not the one that you want to hear, but these are the truths that you deal with. You can't pretend it's not true that pay-per-views must be sold and all this other stuff that has nothing to do with fighting, is you just keep knocking guys out.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You just have to keep knocking them out. Every time you knock out a former champion in under a minute, it's harder to deny, and he did it.
I learned a very interesting lesson on Saturday's broadcast, and it was the sit-down interview involving Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw, where, Robin, if you ever make a comeback, I mean, you don't want to get into a verbal debate with an analyst. And TJ Dillashaw, this took this fight that, listen, everyone is looking forward to this fight regardless. You watch that segment, my God, did Dominic Cruz talk you into reserving a spot on your couch that Sunday night to see that title fight?
What's awesome, too, what I love about it is he convinced the viewers, but that was either a secondary purpose or not a purpose at all. He wanted TJ Dillashaw to start going, how will I beat him? What is the thing? He's right. I said there's holes in this game. What are they? That's what his motivation.
Are you and David Mullins going to spend like 2 hours on that 3-minute segment?
There was definitely a lot going on there. That was an overt attempt to affect the fight and affect TJ Dillashaw's mind. No doubt about it.
We also mentioned in the headlines, going back a few days, we should touch upon Fedor Emelianenko's return on the second Rizin event, doing what everyone anticipated against Jaideep Singh. Was there anything that surprised you in this particular fight, and a desire to see this continue? Because they got the outcome they wanted, and now it's the next step forward for whatever Rizin does, and tentatively scheduled for an April follow-up card.
Yeah, you certainly can't blame Fedor for this fight, because, again, he was offered a bunch of money to take on a guy that had relatively no experience in the world of mixed martial arts. It's just strange how things work. You give Fedor a guy that's 2-0, but you give Sakuraba a guy in his prime. It really doesn't make any sense. But I think it's intriguing enough that if you give Fedor the right opponent, people are going to tune in to watch. And again, I don't know if Fedor is in his prime, but if you got signed by the UFC today, you'd be fighting for Fabrizio Verdum, or you'd be fighting for the UFC heavyweight title. I think
did a decent number in Japan, like a 7.3 on the Fuji network. So
it's really an incredible thing how the Fedor thing will seem to last forever. I mean, he knocked out a bunch of dudes. He had a great timing on his right hand. He was icy cool. He was very foreign and different and unique, and that captured our imaginations.
But what's weird about it is that people saw him get owned by Bigfoot Silva, and they saw him get tapped out by Fabrizio Verdum.
Knocked out by Dan Henderson under the armpit.
Yeah, but people still want to see this guy perform.
hey man, New Japan show, Kazushi Sakuraba walks out, everyone applauds him, just days after Shinya Aoki. For these two, I am John Pollock, and now Fight News Now continues. Stay tuned.